soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me into life. Bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me into life. Bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me into life.
Hello and welcome from Christchurch, East Greenwich, to our Sundays at 7 series, where this evening we're going to be looking at the Book of Psalms. My name's Tim and I'm one of the readers in the parish. And it's my pleasure to be able to bring and introduce a number of members of our congregation who will be sharing some of their favourite and most meaningful psalms as we look at this wonderful book in the Bible. We'll be hearing some psalms of thanksgiving, psalms of joy and praise. There'll be trust psalms and psalms of lament. But we're going to start with a psalm of creation, one that's well known, I'm sure, to many of you. And Alex is going to introduce and read that to us.
Like a lot of people during lockdown, I found myself taking time to appreciate nature more. Taking long walks in Greenwich Park, or having lunch in my tiny garden, or just spending more time with the pets in the house. And Psalm 8, which is the psalm that I've chosen, really kind of points us towards the glory of God's creation, and it demands that we reflect upon the very privileged position that God has given us in his creation. And finally makes you realize that the only real response to all that God has done is to praise and glorify him. And I always think that, when people are kind of searching for proof of God's existence or God's goodness, the answer is so simple. It's all around us. It's in the incredible world that God has built. And therefore, anyone who can appreciate the beauty of nature, you appreciate the beauty of nature and you are taking your first step on a journey that's going to lead you to God's side. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouths of babes and infants you founded a bulwark because of your foes, to silence the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you have established, what are human beings that you're mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? Yet you have made them a little lower than God, and crowned them with glory and honour. You have given them dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the seas. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
For many people, one of the particular attractions of the Psalms is the way in which there is a very intimate dialogue between the psalmist and God, and the psalmist can express his deepest feelings and emotions to God. We're going to hear from Karen, who's going to introduce one of those psalms that speaks very closely into our personal relationship with God. Hi, Karen. Thank you for being with us. Perhaps I could ask you, first of all, to tell us a little bit about what the Psalms mean for you.
Hi, Tim. I think that the Psalms are just completely vital for me. They're the first place that I turn in the darkest moments when it's hard to concentrate or when I can't find the right words. But also when I'm happy or want to praise, there's such a personal expression of David, particularly the Davidic Psalms, that are such a personal expression of David's relationship with God, and the fact that he just approaches him so honestly and openly. So you can find all human emotions and situations within them, and there's always something new or something that strikes me that didn't strike me before. So yes, they're really important.
That's lovely, thank you. And so which psalm are you going to introduce, and perhaps you could tell us why?
I've chosen Psalm 139, which I guess is my favourite psalm. I was introduced to it a really long time ago at a Christian Union at college, and somebody stood up and read it and explained why it was important to them. And it really resonated with me, and I went away and noted it, and I just returned to it all the time. I think that for me it's really comforting and reassuring. It's that sense that you can never go too far or anywhere where God can't find you, that he knows you, that he knows everything about you. You don't have to pretend. You're known, you're accepted, you're loved. And I just, I return to it again and again.
That's really nice, Karen. Thank you for sharing that. That's so inspiring. Let's listen now to Psalm 139. Thank you so much.
O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you.
I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene, and wonder how he could love me, a sinner condemned unclean, singing how marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Saviour's love for me. He took my sin and my sorrows, he made them his very own, and bore the burden to Calvary, and suffered and died alone, singing how marvelous, how wonderful, and my song
We heard there from our worship band singing, I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene. And it reminds us that many of the Psalms were Psalms of praise and thanksgiving. They rightly have the title, The Hymnal of Israel. And Pam is now going to talk to us about one of those particular Psalms of thanksgiving. Hi Pam, it's lovely to have you with us. And I know that the Psalms are special for you. Would you tell us a little bit about why they're special for you?
The Psalms have always been special for me, I think, because I sort of started reading them as a young and a new Christian. And I wanted to find out more about Christian music, gospel music. And a lot of the songs that we were singing in church were actually directly linked to the Psalms. So reading the Psalms and then listening to the music helped me understand that better, but also grow in my faith.
That's lovely. And so which psalm are you going to introduce for us this evening, and why?
I'm going to introduce Psalm 100, which is a psalm of thanksgiving. And again, it was a psalm that when I was part of a choir, a youth choir, we were taught that there's something really important about praising God when you meet with God, when you begin that time of worship and prayer. And it's such a joyful psalm. It's a really happy one. And it does talk about singing. And I do love music. I love to listen to music. And it's a psalm that puts you, I think, in a space to just worship and get closer to God.
Thank you ever so much. Let's now listen to you reading Psalm 100. Thank you.
Psalm 100, a psalm of thanksgiving. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is he that made us, and we are his. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations.
One of the types of psalms that I find particularly powerful are what are known as the entrance psalms. And they speak of how God's people get ready to come into his holy sanctuary or to enter into the temple for worship. One of those psalms is Psalm 24, and that's particularly meaningful to me, as some of the words from that psalm were used by the minister at the start of my father's funeral. Those wonderful words, who shall ascend the hill of the Lord, and who shall stand in his holy presence? Let's listen as Katie reads Psalm 24.
The earth is the Lord's, and all that is in it, the world and those who live in it, for he has founded it on the seas and established it on the rivers. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord, and who shall stand in his holy place? Those who have clean hands and pure hearts, who do not lift up their souls to what is false, and do not swear deceitfully. They will receive blessing from the Lord, and vindication from the God of their salvation. Such is the company of those who seek him, who seek the face of the God of Jacob. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord, mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts, he is the King of glory.
Hi Gav, thanks for being with us this evening. Perhaps you could tell us which psalm you're introducing for us.
Tim, thanks for having me. So I'd like to introduce Psalm 121. This is one of my favourite psalms. In fact, it is probably my favourite psalm. And And it's special to me because it was one of the first Psalms which I came across in the Bible, and I came across it by virtue of a song that we used to sing at a church I used to go to. And it really tells of God being our protector and our keeper, and someone who will not abandon us, whether day or night, whether in good times or bad times. So it's really a prayer as well as a declaration that God is our protector.
That's great. Thank you, Gav. Let's now listen to you reading Psalm 121.
I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord, who made the heavens and the earth. He will not let you stumble and fall. The one who watches over you will not sleep. Indeed, he who watches over Israel never tires and never sleeps. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun shall not hurt you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord keeps you from all evil and preserves your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever.
Grander earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken for my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see, and this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and winds still know his name. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and winds still know his name. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and winds still know his name. The waves and winds still know his name. It is well with my soul.
one of the types of psalms that have spoken to many people during this period of lockdown are the Psalms of Lament. They were originally used by the Israelites when they were facing a time of exile away from Jerusalem. And perhaps the most famous of all of those lament psalms, Michael is going to introduce to us now.
Yes, the psalm I'm going to introduce is Psalm 137. And I first got introduced to this psalm when I was growing up in Jamaica, when this psalm was released as a song by Boney M. And so it really resonates with me, memories of growing up in Jamaica and listening to Boney M sing this song. But what is important for me here is that, you know, in the Israelites were captive, and they were being tormented, a bit like probably how we face what we're facing now in this situation of COVID, where we sort of feel captive, and they were being tormented by by the Babylonians, and being asked and being sort of mocked to sing their famous songs of Zion. But you know, they refused to. They hung up their harps, and they sort of held true to what they believed in, which, you know, is, and they lamented, and they were weeping about their Jerusalem, but they stood fast. You know, and it's something that I'm trying to do, and hopefully everybody's trying to do in this time. We stay firm in our faith. We stay firm in knowing that God is with us and getting us through this situation. And they did that. They didn't sing, and they really held firm to their beliefs.
Psalm 137, verses 1 to 6. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept when we remembered Zion. On the willows there we hung up our harps. For there our captors asked us for songs, and our tormentors asked for mirth, saying, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." How could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand wither. Let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy.
We thought earlier of the fact that the Psalms often will reveal our deepest emotions and feelings. And Michael, having read the first 6 verses of Psalm 137, he didn't read the last 3 verses, which reveal a particularly powerful and indeed frightening description of how the psalmist would like to take the children of the captors, the Babylonians, and dash them against the rocks. Now, what are we to make of the anger and the hatred that we find in parts of the Psalms? They're difficult to deal with. Jane Williams is a theologian and a writer, a lecturer at St. Mellitus College, and I came across a lecture seminar that she gave on the Psalms in which she addressed this issue. I thought it would be helpful to hear what she has to say about it.
And so the Psalms take for granted that if this is God's world and there isn't a sacred secular divide, there's nothing that you can't say to God. There is no point in trying to hide things from God. God knows us deeply, and so honesty before God is a requirement of our interaction with God. And there are sections of the Psalms that are deeply, deeply shocking, because they speak with such anger and hatred. And they're quite difficult to read, aren't they? If you come across some of these psalms, you must know some of the ones that I'm talking about. For example, By the Waters of Babylon, which ends with a plea that God will dash the enemy's babies against the rocks. Now, if we say truthfully to God what we're actually feeling, that doesn't mean God has to do what we ask him to do. Prayers do not dictate what God may and may not do. But prayers, if you bring out that kind of anger that kind of deep frustration and pain in front of God, then you're in a way acknowledging that the world is God's and God is its creator. You're acknowledging that there aren't things that are acceptable to say to God and things that are not acceptable to say to God. You're acknowledging that it is possible to bring all of this before God. And then what happens when you do, when you lay this all out in front of God? Well, God looks at it. And when God looks at things, they change. Because they are put into that great perspective of the eternal, steadfast love of God. So next time you feel extraordinarily angry about something, just try letting it out in front of God and see what happens. Maybe you do, maybe you're good at that, but a lot of worship is very, very polite and pretends that we're always, in quite a good state of mind and that we really don't hate anybody at all. And so it's hypocrisy. And the heavens declare the glory of God by being what they are. Now, we are not that simple. We are still learning to be what we are. And at the moment, we have all kinds of conflicting emotions. Don't be under any illusion that God doesn't know about that, just because you don't tell him. Actually, God does know all our emotions, including the anger, the hatred, the things that we don't like to acknowledge in church. And so the Psalms suggest God would quite like us to bring this emotion to him and let him see us in our truthfulness and then begin to let him interact and begin to change. So again, as you read those terrible, terrible verses in the Psalms, be shocked, because they are shocking, but also be aware that probably every one of us has something that resonates with that. We can identify times when we have felt anger and hatred, maybe not quite to that extent, but to some extent. And how are we going to let God in on that or not? Or is that something God's not interested in? Is God only interested in us when we're nice? Because if so, he's not very interested in us, is he? Or maybe you're all nice, but I'm not, certainly. And I hope that God is willing to go on working with me as I attempt to lay myself against the skin of the universe and try to become more in tune with the heartbeat of God.
Hi, Margie. Thank you for joining us. Perhaps you could tell us which psalm you're going to introduce and why you've chosen it.
Hi, Tim. The psalm I'm going to introduce today is Psalm 91. Psalm 91 is a psalm that's close to my heart because in March 2018, when I was diagnosed with cancer, Margaret paid me a visit shortly after, and this is the psalm that she gave to me. This is the psalm that she sat there, she read out. It gives me a lot of comfort, and this psalm always reminds me of that time when she came up.
That's lovely, Margie. Is there a particular verse that speaks to you from the psalm?
Yes, it's Psalm 14, and this is from the Amplified Version, and it says, "Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high because he knows and understands my name." In brackets in the Amplified Version, it says, "Has a personal knowledge of my mercy, love and kindness, trust and relies on me, knowing I will never forsake him. No, never." And that gives me just a lot of comfort, especially the last bit where it says, God will never forsake us. No, never.
Thank you, Margie. That's really lovely what you shared with us. And we'll now listen to Psalm 91 being read. Thank you.
Thank you.
You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, "My refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a buckler. Because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you, no scourge come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. Those who love me I will deliver. I will protect those who know my name. When they call to me, I will answer them. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue them and honour them. With long life I will satisfy them and show them my salvation.
We couldn't really go through an evening looking at the Psalms without hearing from perhaps the most famous psalm of all, the one that for many of us is the first that we probably came across, and that's Psalm 23. And so Zoe is going to introduce that psalm to us, and then we're going to hear from our worship band again as they sing "The Lord is My Shepherd."
Hello, I'm Zoe. I'm super elated to be introducing a psalm that I learned way back in Bible study. This is what pulls me to this psalm. The poetic license I'm drawing from this is because David was once a shepherd boy, he understood that the same love and care and commitment that he gave and committed to his sheep, the herd, is not compared to the one that God, as our shepherd, as his shepherd, was according to him, because he is the Almighty, isn't it? David is just amazing. I don't know. He says, God is my shepherd, I shall not want. Because as a shepherd boy, every morning he had to take the sheep across green pastures to get them food, to make sure that they were fed, take them by the still waters so that they will get water to drink and they will not thirst. And even when the bears, the lions, the tigers came to eat up the sheep, he, as the shepherd, was always ahead of them. He was leading them. He understood that principle of the shepherd leading the sheep. And that's why he always depended on God leading him. Even when he fell down, he got back up because he trusted that the love that God had for him was not the love that was conditional. It was the unconditional love that through the storm, through his sins, through his mistakes, God's love was made perfect in his weaknesses. I have to always trust in God's love for me, no matter what, because God's love is never failing. Just open your hearts to him as we read the Psalm 23 together.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still waters. His goodness restores my soul. And I will trust in you alone. guides my way in righteousness, and he anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on his pure delights, and I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. And though I walk the darkest path, I will not fear the evil one, for you are with me, and your rod and staff are the comfort I need to know. And I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. For your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. Your goodness will lead me home. Your goodness will lead me home.
As we come to the end of our evening looking at the Psalms, I hope that you have enjoyed hearing the contributions of a number of the members of the congregation, and I'd like to thank them for all that they've shared with us and for the readings that they've given to us for tonight. And I hope that it might have inspired you to look at the Psalms again, or perhaps for the first time, and to delve into all of the riches that are there. And I thought to end it might be good to choose verse 8 of Psalm 121 that we heard read earlier this evening. So as we go out into this week ahead, the Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. Amen.
Bless the Lord, my soul.